We've been going through a series together as a church on Encounter, and my job this afternoon was sort of to wrap that up and to recap and summarise and sort of think about, well, what does that sort of stuff mean? Why is it important? Why have we been doing that? And we will be doing that, but first I want to look at one more character briefly. And the reason I'm doing that, I wasn't planning on doing this originally, but this is a person that I relate to quite a lot. And I hope that throughout the talk you'll see why. And I hope that we can see God working through this person and hopefully through us as well. But before that, just to get our brains turning, get our brains ticking, time for a bit of a quiz. Let's have a couple of questions, is it? Okay, so, first question. Elephants can hear with their feet. Is that true or is it false? How many of you reckon it's false? Okay, how many of you think it's true? Okay, so maybe the false slightly have it. Guys, it's true. Guys, it's true. Elephants can actually hear with their feet. Don't ask me how. I tried reading about it and understanding it. I don't get it. I don't vibrations of the feet. I don't get it. But elephants can hear with their feet. I don't know. Google it. Ask Siri. Siri will know. Siri knows everything. Ask Siri. Next question. Underwater rugby is an international sport. True or false? False? Okay, most of us. True? Couple of the truths, yeah? Guys, it's true. It's true. I'll explain to you how it works. Ready? So, where is it? Yeah, you have a bowl full of salt water, so it doesn't float to the surface. You'll have two teams of 6, and they pass the ball between the teammates, like sort of you do in rugby, they tackle each other. And then you have a bucket, listen to this, secured to the bottom of the swimming pool, and they've got to get the ball in the bucket. And you've got to do that to the opposite team. Honestly, Google it later, it's true, I'm not lying, underwater rugby, it is an international sport. It's not just a regional sport, it's not that, it's an international sport. There we are, see, you learn something new every day. Next one, wet hair causes a cold. It's an old wives' tale. It is, isn't it? How many reckon it's true? Yeah? So in the middle, true? How many think it's false? Who would know it? You can put your hand down. Guys, it's false. It's false. Apparently, it'll make you feel uncomfortable, but only viruses, again, I don't know, but apparently they can only, that will give you cold, and having cold hair doesn't have an impact on whether you get cold or not. So that's just what I've read, that's what I've heard. Apparently, wet hair doesn't give you a cold, doesn't cause you a cold. Shaving makes hair grow back thicker. True or false? True? False? Ooh. Guys, it's false. The reason being, again, what do I know? But apparently, when you shave off the top of a hair follicle, it looks thicker, but then it grows back and it's exactly the same. So it doesn't actually, did you know that? See? There we are. Apparently it doesn't. There we are. Every person has 3 different types of smile. Some of us don't have any, do we? True or false? True? True? False? False? It's true. Now, apparently we have one when praise is given and we get a reward. That's one type of smile. We have another one to show a bond between people, like when we have a photograph. And then one to show dominance, apparently. In a situation you want to show a bit of dominance, apparently you smile. That's not the thing I thought you would do, if you want to show dominance, but apparently that's the thing. Final question. How many of you believe the answers that I gave to those questions just because I told you them? Interesting thought, isn't it? People had different responses to these questions, and lots of us at different levels, we doubted whether things are true and whether things aren't true. And things that we've always thought to be true, like wet hair gives us cold, isn't actually true. And the things that we didn't think are true, like underwater rugby for goodness sake, actually turns out to be a thing. So what happens when we're questioning things, and the things we're questioning isn't whether international, whatever it is, underwater rugby is an international sport, or whether elephants can hear with their feet. But what actually happens when we start to question the big things in life? Is there a God? How did I get here? If there is a God, who is he? It, whatever you think God is. And does God care? What happens when you start doubting and when you start considering the big questions in life? Or maybe you're doubting the other way. Maybe you have believed in God. Maybe you know God, have experienced God, been brought up in church, or you've been going to church for a little bit. And you say you believe in God, but now you're starting to doubt the experiences and the knowledge and everything that you've been taught. What happens when you start doubting God? When everything that you believe to be true, you're now thinking, actually, I don't know where I stand with this stuff anymore. And if you are like that, or have experienced that, you're in good company. Because the Bible is full of people like that. People who have experienced God, encountered God, have had amazing things happen to them because of God, but yet they still doubt. They're like, I don't know if this stuff is real, I don't know if this stuff is true. And today we're going to be looking at one of those people before we wrap this series up. And it's a guy by the name of Thomas. Now, if you've been around church for a while, Thomas has a bit of a nickname. Anybody want to tell me what his nickname is?
It's behind you.
Oh, it is as well. I didn't think about that. What's his name? He's Doubting Thomas. So this is his story. Hopefully it works now. Because this story, the people who tell this story will be able to tell it a lot better than I can.
Jesus appears to Thomas. This is Jesus, who is the Son of God and the Savior of the world. While Jesus was on earth, he taught everyone about God's love and healed people from their sickness. He did many miracles like calming storms. He even raised people from the dead. But some people did not like what Jesus was doing. And they put him to death. He died on the cross and was buried in a tomb. For 3 days, Jesus' body lay in that tomb, and it seemed that there was no hope. But very early on Sunday morning, the woman who cared for Jesus went to go visit his body, found that his tomb was empty, and that he was no longer there. For he was risen. He was alive. Jesus appeared to his disciples to show them that he was alive. One of the 12 disciples, Thomas, was not with the others when Jesus came. Later, the disciples told Thomas, "We have seen the Lord." But Thomas said, "I won't believe unless I see the nail wounds in his hands, put my fingers in them, and place my hand in the wound in his side." 8 days later, the disciples were together, and this time Thomas was there. The doors were locked, but suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them. "Peace be with you," he said. Then Jesus said to Thomas, "Put your finger here, and look at my hands. Put your hand in the wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer. Believe." Thomas said, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, "You believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who believe without seeing."
You guys enjoy that? I did anyway. I just think it's funny. They're like, woohoo, and all that sort of stuff. But it is for kids, admittedly, but I don't know, 26 and I enjoy it anyway. So let's go through this story. Doubting Thomas. I think that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Calling him Doubting Thomas. He should be called Realistic Thomas, if he has a name. His best mate has just been killed. The guy who's been with for the past 3 years. He's seen him buried, he knows he's dead. But then now his other friends are saying, no, he's alive, we've seen him, and he's risen from the dead. What are you going to say? Someone that you know to be dead, everyone is saying he's alive. How many people do you know rise from the dead? It's not a regular thing, is it? It doesn't happen every day. What would your response be? Because I know what mine would be. It's not happening, is it? That's not real. That's not true. I've seen him die, I know he's buried, he's dead, and that's it. And that was Thomas's response. He was being realistic. So, one of the 12 disciples, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, he had a twin, was not with the others when Jesus came, and they said, "We've seen the Lord." But he replied, "I won't believe unless I see the nail wounds in his hands, put my fingers in them, and place my hand inside of his womb, in the wound in his side." Thomas says, "I'll believe it when I see it." Doesn't say it can't happen, doesn't say it'll never happen, doesn't say there's no way ever that I'm not going to believe that. He just says, "I'll believe it when I see it." And for some of you here, that might be where you are. When it comes to God, when it comes to faith, you know, like, well, it could be true, it could be real, but I'll believe it when I see it. I need evidence, I need proof. Is God real? Who is he? Does he care? Does he love me? And that's how doubt works. We come to a conclusion that the God that isn't real can't be real because we look at the bad stuff around us, because we look at the evidence that says he's not real. Why are there so many bad things happening in the world? Why has this happened to me? Why do I still struggle with this? God can't be real because if he was real, he'd be here. If he was real, this wouldn't have happened to me. And we look at everything that happens in our world and we come to the conclusion, well, there can't possibly be a God. And like Thomas saying, I know the evidence, Jesus is dead, he can't possibly be alive. We find ourselves in that situation. Does anybody relate to this? Has anybody thought, actually, I just don't know about this stuff anymore. I just don't know. I just want to be honest and share my heart with you this morning. I've been there. 8 days later, the disciples were together again, and this time Thomas was with them. But the doors were locked. You know, 8 days passed. This isn't in the Bible, so don't take it as 100% true. This is just my opinion. I think some of the disciples actually maybe started to change their mind a little bit. Because over a week later, they're not going out telling everybody, Jesus is risen from the dead. They're in a locked room. No one can get in or out. They're not living like, yeah, it doesn't matter what happens to me now because I know that Jesus is alive. It seems like they're living in fear. It seems like they don't want anyone to come in. It's safe where they are. They can be vulnerable with themselves. They don't have to face what's going on outside, the fear that's going on outside. And you know what? I find that I do that. I build up barriers for no one to come in, that no one can break, that no one can pass. I do it because I don't want to get hurt. I do it because I'm afraid of showing who I really am. And like these disciples lock themselves in a room that no one can get through, we often do that as well. And that's what doubt is. There's this barrier. Whatever anybody says, you're surrounded by people in this room that say they know Jesus, they sing to Jesus, they pray to Jesus, they believe in Jesus, and they live for Jesus, but yet you can be in this environment and still be like, I don't know because I have doubt in my heart, and it's this barrier that no one can get through. I've experienced God, I know God, but for some reason there's just something going on in my heart. There's a barrier between me and God, and there's locks on the door, and no one can get past that. And that's what doubt is. It doesn't make sense sometimes. It's not rational, but it's there. It's like a cloud over our heads, and we can't get past it. And that's what's happening to these disciples. And Thomas was with them. No one can get in. Thomas wasn't going to believe it, no matter what these guys said. And there's nothing that people can say to us a lot of the time that's going to change our minds. People can give you the best evidence for God. They can tell you the best evidence for Jesus rising from the dead. They can tell you the best evidence for why the Bible is true and all the rest of it. But ultimately, that stuff, a lot of the time, it doesn't deal with the doubt that's in your heart. And actually, there isn't much, if anything, that can deal with that. Because we've locked the doors from the inside, and nothing can get into that. And you know what? Christians don't really help the situation. Now, please hear me on this. I've been in church my whole life. I love Christians. I love being here. I love being around you guys. And but Christians often don't help it because if you have doubt and you come to Christians, sometimes they just say, well, you just got to trust the Bible. That's what the Bible says, so you just got to believe it. Well, that's what God says, so you've just got to accept it and just trust it. And that's fine. We need to trust God and we need to trust what he says in his word. But what happens when you don't trust in his word? What happens when you don't trust in God? What do? You know you should, but you can't because you have this barrier of doubt that you don't want there, but it's there. It's the reality of your existence. It's the reality of what's going on in your heart. What happens when you're questioning everything? So what do we do with this doubt? What do we do with this disbelief? When we don't know where to go, who to go to. When we've locked ourselves in a room of doubt, of hurt, of not wanting to face what's going on outside. What do we do? What can we do? And what I'm going to say now, you might agree with me, you might not. This is just what I think. We don't do anything. We don't do anything. This is what the Bible says. Though the doors were locked, remember they were locked from the inside, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." When it comes to doubt, a lot of people want to believe, but they can't. There's nothing that they can do. So what do we do when you're doubting and you're struggling to believe? You wait for Jesus to come in. To get past those barriers that you can't bring down yourself. To do the thing that you can't do. Jesus, through their doubt, through their fears, even though they locked the doors, he still came in. And we've got to do the same. When we struggle with doubt, when we struggle with disbelief, not knowing if this stuff is true, we need to wait and sit and trust that God somehow, some way can enter that. Because that's what Jesus did for them. And notice what Jesus said to them. He didn't say, "Guys, where's your faith? Come on. You've been with me for 3 years. I said to you I was going to die. I said to you I was going to rise from the dead. How many times do I have to say it? Why didn't you just believe me when I told you what I told you?" He didn't say that. What does he say? Peace be with you. Jesus doesn't judge or condemn or say you should read more, pray more, do more, be better. He speaks his love, his calm, his grace to them. Peace be with you. And I know in doubt that's what we need. We don't need people to judge us. We don't need people to tell us that we should be doing more and we should believe better, because we know that. What we need is for Jesus, God himself, to speak into our hearts and say, "Peace. It's okay. I love you. I know you. And it's going to be okay." The best thing we can do is sit and wait. Next verse. Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. See my hand. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." After he speaks the peace, then he says, "Guys, stop doubting and believe. I'm here." He gives Thomas the evidence. And you know, when we trust in Jesus and believe in Jesus, we may not have all the answers. We may not understand why things happen in the world. But we have a conviction in our heart that despite all that, despite what I do and don't understand, I know who Jesus is. I know what he's done in my life. And he's real. And that's evidence enough. Jesus then gives Thomas the evidence. And when we get on the other side of doubt, I believe that we get that evidence, that conviction of, yeah, I didn't believe, I really struggled, but now Jesus has done something in my life and my heart, and I believe. And that's enough for me, and that's evidence enough. "My Lord and my God," Thomas exclaimed. Thomas said, "Yeah, Jesus, I see who you are, I know who you are, you're my Lord and my God." And that's a great thing to say. That's a great thing to declare about who Jesus is. But Jesus almost went straight past that. He almost didn't even acknowledge that. He said, "Thomas, you believe because you've seen me. But blessed are those who believe and they haven't seen me." They don't need the physical evidence. They don't need to see me in the flesh. But they know I'm real. They know who I am. And they know what I have for them. Why am I saying all this? Because I'm like Thomas right now. I'm really struggling. I feel like I'm struggling. And so this is why the story of Thomas speaks to me, because I'm in this place of waiting for Jesus to come through my doors, my barriers of doubt. This room that I feel like I'm in and the doors are locked and nothing can get through. I'm waiting for Jesus to come through. And I know he's real, and I know he loves me. And I know he will do it. But I'm in that period of waiting. Sometimes it's not just the best thing you can do is to wait on God, it's the only thing you can do. And I'm in that period right now. And this talk is to encourage whoever you are, wherever you are with God. You may not even believe in God. And you're here. And if that is you, that's fine. It's just so good to have you here. But for people like me who do believe, but yet you still struggle, I want this to be an encouragement to you. That even though you put barriers, I put barriers up, to God, even though the doors are all of that, that room that we put ourselves in, those locks are locked from the inside and no one can get through. Jesus can and will get through to them. What he did for Thomas, he can do for me, and what he will do for me, he can do for you. And I believe that. So I hope that's some sort of an encouragement to you, because that's where I am, and I'm trusting that Jesus will get me through. But anyway, this series we've been going through, there's a list of people that we've been talking about. This series we've been talking about has been going on for the last couple of months. Abraham, an encounter of trust. God gave Abraham a promise, and it took years and years and years for that promise to come. It was all about trust. Joseph, an encounter of patience, a boy who was sold into slavery by his brothers, and again took years for his destiny to come about, for what God trusted him with and promised him to actually come about, came down to trust. Matthew, an encounter of acceptance, a man who was wealthy, who had a lot going for him, left it all to follow Jesus. Trusted in Jesus. The woman at the well, a woman who was broken, who no one wanted anything to do with, met Jesus and her life was changed. She trusted him for the change. Came down to trust. Peter, again, a man who was a fisherman, left everything to follow Jesus. Trust. Woman with blood, she trusted Jesus